Greetings, one and all. Welcome back to another episode of the Icing on the Skate podcast. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Episode 8. Episode 8. That's not too bad, is it? Woo! Episode 8. So, yes, joining me today, of course, is a very blurry Chris Gadsby today.
Yeah. I sense I might know what it is. I really don't want to undo a day and a half's of work.
Ah, okay. Sure. So, yeah, if he's a little bit worse for wear, it's his fault, not mine.
Yeah, if it really becomes a problem, I'll cancel it and then I'll hopefully upload it at work when I'm on a fast Mac.
Oh, are you uploading something right now?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course that's the problem, you tit. Anyway, moving on.
It's
so
taken me a day and a half to get to 78%.
Ah, okay. So, yes, 2 months we've been doing this. We've done this every week for 2 months, which, if you know what we're like, that's pretty impressive. I've got to admit.
It is.
I'm quite happy with that. So, yes, I've got to admit, this week has been quite quiet in the hockey universe, from what I've seen. We're probably going to have a shorter podcast than usual.
Yeah.
So, I think we should begin as we always begin with
Okay.
With Mr. Bumble over there taking us through all of the Elite League scores. Go on then, Chris.
Am I just? Can you hear me all right, or am I just blurry?
No, I can hear you. Yeah, you're fine.
All right. If I'm just blurry, that's fine then.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start in the Elite League.
Okay.
And the results since last weekend. Shut up. Okay, so starting on Wednesday, Guildford 3, Sheffield 2. Moving through to Friday, Dundee 4, Milton Keynes 3 in overtime. And Sheffield 2, Nottingham 1 in overtime. This is also Saturday now. Glasgow 6, Milton Keynes 4. Manchester 3, Belfast 4, again in overtime. 5-2, Coventry 3, again in overtime. Moving on to Sunday, Nottingham 2, Belfast 3, overtime. Guildford 4, Manchester 0, and 5-4, Milton Keynes 1. In the Challenge Cup, only 2 fixtures, both involving Cardiff. They lost 3-5 to Guildford on Saturday and then beat Coventry 4-0 on Sunday.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. So I think there was some good and some bad from some teams. If we take Sheffield, they went 2 wins, 1 loss. Guildford went 2 wins, I think, by the looks of it. No, yeah, they went 3 wins this week because they beat Sheffield, they beat Cardiff, they beat Manchester. Nottingham 2 overtime losses. Well done, boys. Good job. I think Belfast went undefeated this week, didn't they?
Belfast beat Nottingham. Again, overtime wins against Manchester and Nottingham.
Ah, fair play to them. So, a couple of teams going undefeated, a couple of teams picking up some losses. So, do you want to take us through the standings of the league?
Standings? Yeah, we'll just do the league because, as you know, the Challenge Cup is mad.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a moment.
Yeah, okay, so top of the league, the 5 Flyers, 20 points from 12 matches. Second, Belfast, 20 points from 14 matches. And third place, Nottingham, 20 points from 17 matches.
Yep.
In fourth place, Cardiff, 16 points, only 9 matches though, because they've had all the CHL stuff to deal with.
Indeed.
In fifth, Guildford, 14 points from 12. In sixth, Coventry, 13 points from 10. In seventh, Glasgow, 12 points from 11. In eighth, Manchester, 11 points from 14. Ninth, Dundee, 11 points from 13. 10th, Sheffield, 10 points from 15. And bottom, Milton Keynes, 7 points from 13.
So, I think it's quite clear, if we're going to take a look at, once all the teams catch up to the amount of games that Nottingham's played.
Okay, yeah, I could do that for you quickly if you want. Or do we have to? Should we? Well, we kind of have to take the assumption.
I'm just sort of talking based on sort of what we're seeing at the moment. So Nottingham have played 17 games. They have 20 points. They're technically tied first, but I think it's clear that they're going to sit. I think they could even drop to the bottom half of the league.
Well, I mean, Cardiff in 8 games are going to pick up 4 points.
Yeah, I think Cardiff are going to jump to the top, definitely. I think by Christmas Cardiff will be sitting pretty at the top. I think they'll have a margin of about between 5 to 10 points. I can imagine. I mean, just looking at the stats here as well, they're the only team so far this season. Granted, they've only played 9 games, but they're the only team this season that hasn't hit over 100 penalty minutes either. So they're a good team at staying out of the box as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Compared to some of these other teams I had, like for example, Manchester, 441 penalty minutes.
That's 14 ridiculous. Games.
Yeah, in 14 league games. That's ridiculous.
True.
So I think Cardiff will be sitting at the top for a while. I think Fife are doing a great job, like we said for the last few weeks. Guildford have quietly snuck themselves into a decent position, I think, as well. They've just got to keep going with what they're doing.
Just consider Fife from it. They're legitimately second, because even if Cardiff leapfrog them, they've played fewer games than anybody else that can catch them.
Yeah. All they need
Fife are legitimately top 2.
Yeah, all they need is a point in their next 2 games, and they're above Belfast, aren't they? So.
Yeah, but they've got 2 games in hand on Belfast.
Exactly, so. Yeah, exactly. I find it quite funny because for those of you who were paying attention, on Saturday, which was my birthday, there was the game between Sheffield and Nottingham. I saw some Sheffield fans say some very interesting things, especially that and after the game, the Nottingham game against Belfast yesterday. It's like, like Nottingham are like they're consistently inconsistent or they're consistently losing, and then you look at the league standing, it's like Sheffield can't really talk right now.
Hang on.
They've played 2 less games and they're 10 points behind. You know, they've lost twice the amount of games that they've won. It's like Sheffield. I know with the new coach. I mean, Sheffield, like I've said several times, they're my second team. I would like to see them do well. I like the Sheffield Steelers, but they've got a new coach. It looks like you're going in the right direction. You've won 2 of your last 3. However, come on. You've only just hit double-digit points this weekend. Like, let's save we're going to win the league for maybe next year or the year after, lads?
Even if they win their games in hand over Nottingham, they're still going to be 6 points behind them.
Exactly. So some very interesting stuff once again going on in the league. Coventry's kind of been the team, I think, out of all of them that's done their job the quietest. You know? Yeah. 10 games, 13 points.
Especially because of the bad Challenge Cup, that's the word. Bad Challenge Cup run that they've had. Being knocked out of that.
So, interesting results going on in the league, I think. There isn't really much to talk about. Like, you kind of want to go into more detail about it, but it's just kind of more of the same, really.
It's literally just been a league weekend. Nothing's going to happen.
It's just kind of more of the same. Like, Nottingham are losing games. Sheffield are losing some games and winning a few. Guildford are winning games. Belfast are winning games. Manchester are losing games. Like, the last couple of weeks we started to see the teams break away from each other at the top and the bottom of the league, and that's continuing. We can't really say much else other than that, to be honest, can we?
No.
Let's move on to the Challenge Cup before we get on to the tiny little bits of news here and there.
I gave you the 2 scores.
Yes. So the 2 scores that we've had. So where does that put us in the standings for the Challenge Cup?
Okay, so the standings for the Challenge Cup. So the 2 results.
Before you go, ladies and gentlemen, just make sure you pay close attention because it's very confusing. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, should we try that spreadsheet or not?
We could do. Yeah.
Let me
screen share.
See if I can work out how to do it.
It's the double square button.
It
might be really blurry though, is all I'm thinking.
It may be, but we'll try it.
We'll give it a go.
Okay. Share screen. Right.
Do that.
Try that. It means I've got to look at it though, so I can't if it's working.
Okay. Well, I've got a blank screen at the moment.
Oh, okay.
This is fun. Oh, there we go. Wait. Yeah, it's really blurry. You cannot read a single thing on that.
Oh, okay. Right. Let's not worry then. Let's not worry about it. Basically, I spent an hour doing a spreadsheet. Oh, yeah, so it is. You can see my spreadsheet there, even though it's really blurry. I spent an hour trying to
just want to
work
say before we
out.
start, those of you watching or aren't really paying too much attention, yeah, like Chris has said, he's made a massive spreadsheet on like all the different results that could come of the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, it
'cause
took
the
me an
Challenge Cup is
hour,
meant
and
to
I'm still
finish
not
next
sure it's right.
weekend. So, yeah, we're going
It's
to
a
go
shame
into
I
that
can't
now.
post. It's a shame I can't post pictures in the chat, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, no, you can't do that. That's a shame.
No, that would have been good. Anyway, okay, so the two results: Cardiff lost to Guildford and then beat Coventry.
Yes.
So the Group B, wasn't it? Because Flash Scores has it in a different order to the Elite League. Let me get the Elite League up.
Group C is with Cardiff, I believe.
Yeah, and then Group B is the...
Belfast.
See, Flash Scores have Group A with Belfast, you see.
Well, they're wrong.
Right. I know they are. That's what makes it confusing. So, Group B is finished, and if you go on the Elite League website, they've already rejigged that group.
Okay.
Depending on... Because 5 have been eliminated, so they've reshuffled the group as if 5 never existed.
Yeah, that was the same last week, right? We talked about that last week.
We covered that last week, yeah.
Okay.
So, the only matches that have taken place are in Group C.
Okay.
So only look at Group C.
Okay.
Cardiff and Coventry have played all their games.
Right.
Which means Coventry are eliminated because they can't catch Milton Keynes.
Because Coventry have a record of 1 win, 5 losses for 2 points. Okay.
Yes. So eliminate Coventry.
Gone.
And then you need to rejig Cardiff, Milton Keynes, and Belfast and all that.
So just for those who can't see, Cardiff are at the top of their group with 10 points. Guildford are second with 6 points. Milton Keynes are third, with 4 points.
Yes.
Guildford and Milton Keynes still have 1 game to play against each other.
Against each other. So
yes.
What I've done is because Coventry are definitely out, I've already rejigged that group.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So that group currently sits as Cardiff, played 4, won 3, lost 1, 6 points.
Okay.
Guildford, played 3, won 2, lost 1, 4 points.
Makes sense.
And Milton Keynes, played 3, lost 3, no points.
Wow.
Because both their wins came against Coventry, who have been eliminated.
Oh, ouch. Okay. So okay, carry on.
No, go. You ask your question because it's going to be easier.
Yeah. So Milton Keynes are currently on 0 points technically.
Correct. Yes.
So, is there any chance of them still qualifying?
Yes, if they win in regulation
against Guildford.
Yes, against Guildford. They have to win in regulation. If they do, they will sneak into the 8th seed spot, knocking out Glasgow based on, I think it was like 0.4. It's like wins on the road or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't write down which tiebreaker everything was on.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. Because for those of you who don't know, the Challenge Cup, because they've made it so unnecessarily complicated this year, there's about 15 different tiebreakers, and some of these go down to like the 11th category.
Yeah, there's 8 different tiebreakers. Then if it's still the same after 8 tiebreakers, they draw lots. And some of these have gone down to 0.7. It's that close.
Wow. Okay,
so there's just not enough games to separate them.
So to summarise Group C at the moment, Coventry are definitely out because they've played
Coventry
games.
Got. Yeah.
Cardiff are at the top. Guildford second.
Cardiff
Milton Keynes third. And technically, Cardiff and Guildford, like you said, are now through. Milton Keynes need to win their next game to take the 8th seed
in regulation.
Glasgow,
Has to be in regulation. It has to. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's on the... Yeah, it's reminded me now. Milton Keynes have to win in regulation, otherwise Glasgow will go through on regulation wins.
Right.
So Milton Keynes have to win in regulation, and then they will take spot 8. So there are 16, because I've done all of them, there are 16 different permutations for these final 2 games. In terms of like Manchester winning reg, Guildford winning reg, Manchester reg, Guildford in OT, etc., etc.
Right, okay.
And in only 4 of them, Milton Keynes go through, which is their wins in regulation.
This just reminds me of that bit from Infinity War. You know, just like, I've looked at all the different alternate realities. In how many did Milton Keynes win? None.
So 5 and Coventry definitely out, and it looks likely Milton Keynes as well.
Right, okay. So we're looking Belfast, Dundee and Glasgow are going to go through. but
Yes.
most likely. And Cardiff and
Yep.
Guildford are going to go through, and then all 3 from Group A are going to go through, and that makes your 8.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Unless
Right,
Milton
that makes
Keynes win in
sense.
regulation, then it's yeah.
Okay,
So
I think I got that.
there are a few things that are definite. The first thing that is
Death and
definite is that
taxes.
Belfast. Well, yes, Belfast are going to be seeded 1.
Right.
That's definite.
Yes,
Can't be
yeah, I can
changed.
see that because Belfast, they won every single one of their games, not including the Fife games, because Fife has already been removed from the Group B standings. So
Correct.
Belfast are up, undefeated, 8 points. Yep, okay, that makes
Correct.
sense.
The
Then
other
Cardiff
thing
will
set-
take second.
The other thing set in stone is Cardiff second, because
Right.
even if Manchester win, Cardiff, if Manchester win, they'll go on 6 points, the same as Cardiff.
Right.
But then Cardiff win on regulation wins again.
Okay.
So Cardiff are definitely second.
Okay, got it. Jesus Christ,
If-
this is confusing.
If Manchester win in any form,
Right.
they take third.
Okay.
If they lose in any form, Sheffield take third.
Right, okay, so Nottingham can't take third.
No. Because
Right.
if they win, they go tied with Sheffield, and then Sheffield win on one of the tiebreakers, and I can't remember which one it is.
Okay, that's fine. So then Nottingham would
Like I said,
take fourth if they won?
It is so confusing that I've been doing it for like nearly an hour, and I'm still not sure it's right.
You see, that's the problem. That's the problem
Yeah.
with the Challenge Cup. Like you said last week, if you take the time to understand it, then it's fine. You shouldn't have to take the time to understand it. It
No.
should be easy.
Now, you see, the way I make it, Nottingham, the way I've worked it out here, Nottingham can only take fourth if they win in regulation and Milton Keynes win in overtime.
Yes. Okay.
That's the only way, from what I've managed to work out, that Nottingham can take fourth. Otherwise, it's either Guildford, Sheffield, or Manchester.
Okay, so to summarise this, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not spending any more time trying to figure out how this bloody thing works. To summarise this, Group A, everybody's going through. We just don't know where they're placed. We'll find out at the weekend.
Yep.
Group B,
Yep.
Belfast and Dundee are going through, definitely. Glasgow,
Yep.
they might be. We'll know at the end of the weekend. And then
Yep.
Group C, Cardiff and Guildford are definitely going through. Milton Keynes, they have to win in regulation to bump ahead of Glasgow. If not,
Yep.
Glasgow ain't going through and Milton Keynes
Yep.
aren't. There you go.
Yeah.
Challenge Cup sorted. Moving
It's
on.
easier. It's okay. The middle is the complicated bit. The top and the bottom, like Belfast are definitely
Yeah.
1, Cardiff are definitely 2. At the bottom, it's either Glasgow or Milton Keynes. 7th is either Nottingham or Dundee.
It's these 6 million bloody tiebreakers that
Yeah.
are so freaking confusing.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
so we are going to move on to the little
sweet.
snippets of news taking place
Yeah.
in the
Snippet.
Elite League this week. There's a few of
Shall
them.
we do just while I don't, did you write down the ones that we spoke about earlier?
No, but I remember
Right.
one of
In
them.
which case, yeah, let's do them first. Firstly, is Chris Lawrence has left the Steelers.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know, it wasn't really publicised as,
He's been
as
released.
normally as the rest of departures in the league. Chris Lawrence of the Sheffield Steelers is no longer with the Sheffield Steelers. I believe Tom Barrasso was doing a media interview or a I think it was an interview of some kind. And I believe it came up then, and it was announced that Chris Lawrence was no longer with the team. I don't really know what else is going on there. I must admit I haven't listened to the interview because it was about half an hour long, and I didn't want to pinpoint the exact moment where it was said. All we know is it was officially announced on the Sheffield Steelers Twitter, though. It was, right? Because you sent me that tweet, didn't you?
Yeah, it was
Yes, you did.
someone else. He'd been told it in an interview.
Yes.
I sent you the link. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So Chris Lawrence has officially left the Sheffield Steelers. So of course we like to wish him luck. Of course we don't know what's going on next. He might find another team in the league. He might go overseas. I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. So yeah, that's that one done. So Chris Lawrence left the Sheffield Steelers.
Yep.
Well, there's another huge bit of news that I even forgot to mention to you regarding Sheffield. You know what it is.
I've just remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say the same.
So, for those of you who don't know, I think it's fair to say, one of the best Great British defensemen of this generation. I think that's a fair comment.
I would go with
right?
that. Yep, I would go with that.
Mr. Ben O'Connor. Was part of the Sheffield Steelers lineup for several years. He played for Coventry beforehand, didn't he? Something like that. Coventry then moved... Yeah, because he was with Paul Thompson's side in Coventry, wasn't he? And then he moved over to Sheffield.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He's been at Sheffield for a while, though.
Yeah, he's been a Steeler for the last sort of 4 or 5 years or so, I would think.
Yeah, since I was properly getting into it, he was been a Steeler.
Yeah. So Ben O'Connor with the Sheffield Steelers. However... with all of the success that Team GB and Ben O'Connor had the last season, he was signed to a team in the KHL. Unfortunately, that deal went through when the new ownership came in. So he didn't go to the KHL and play for Barristan. Would have been cool if he did. However, he didn't. Instead, he got signed by a team in the Allsvenskan. Sheftella? I don't know how to pronounce exactly the name of the team. So he joined a team in the Allsvenskan, which is the second-tier Swedish league, second only to the Swedish Hockey League, the SHL, with the likes of Frölunda and HV71, I should say. Some pretty awesome teams with some pretty fantastic players that many of them go on to play in the NHL. Like, that's the sort of caliber that you have from the players there. I mean, Joel Lundqvist, Henrik Lundqvist's brother, has been the captain of Frölunda there for years. But, yes, so Ben O'Connor was part of this team in the Allsvenskan. However... Ben O'Connor didn't really seem to adjust as well as he could have done. I think he's definitely scored at least one goal. I don't have his exact stats here on me, but it was decided that the team and Ben O'Connor parted ways on a kind of mutual grounds. Things just weren't really working out for him, and it wasn't really benefiting the team as much as they'd hoped. These things happen. It was a business move. I'm sure they shook hands and were like, "Yeah, thank you for everything you've done, but it's time to move on." And it was announced literally a couple of hours, well, about 12 hours before the game in Nottingham, or the game against Nottingham, on Saturday, that Ben O'Connor has returned to the Sheffield Steelers lineup.
You could tell it was coming because it was announced he was leaving the team after their game.
Yes.
So, and everyone was like, well, he's going to come back to Sheffield. He's not going to go anywhere else.
Yeah. Unless he got another gig in the KHL. That would have been cool.
Yeah. But if he was coming back to the Elite League, he was going to go to Sheffield. Although there was those rumours, wasn't there? Because Milton Keynes had a signing that day at midday.
Yeah, that would have been quite funny. And also, I think Cardiff had a signing thing. They had a signing announcement to make that day as well, which would have been hilarious. Could you imagine Ben O'Connor in Sheffield? That would be like a pure Kevin Durant. Like, go to a winner. So yes, Ben O'Connor is back with the Sheffield Steelers. He was named man of the match in his first game back for the Sheffield Steelers when they beat the Panthers in overtime by a score of 2-1. So yeah, Ben O'Connor's back. I expect him to put up many points. I expect him to really help that team. I think he will be one of the catalysts if the Steelers do get back on their winning form and continue to play good hockey. He will be one of the reasons why, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, Ben O'Connor back with the Sheffield Steelers. Wonderful. Was there another tiny bit of news that we needed to mention? Because I've got the list of the stuff that we're going to talk about. But was there one more? I'm just double checking.
There was another signing, wasn't it? Milton Keynes had that youngster.
Yes, Milton Keynes and Cardiff have signed a few guys. They're from one of them's from the Peterborough Phantoms, I believe. I think it was the Lightning. Yeah, I don't have the exact person here.
The other thing to mention is don't forget it's Steelers Blaze that's set on Wednesday on Free Sports.
Yes. I think it's as good a time as any to mention it. Halloween, Coventry Blaze versus the Sheffield Steelers. It's on Free Sports. You can watch it on Sky or Virgin, and there's the app called TV Player if you want to download that. It's on Amazon Fire Sticks and stuff as well, so if you want to have the chance to watch it, just look up TV Player, the app, and you can watch it on there for free. That's what I do. So, yes. I'm going to watch that game. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I think it's going to be really good. Wednesday night hockey. Can't complain, really, can you? So now, moving on to the stuff that we had actually written down.
Yep.
So, the EIHL have appointed a new media manager. So,
About time.
What?
About time.
Yes. So, I've got the Elite League article on this up here, so I'm going to read it to you. Story time with Oddman Rush. So, following the appointment of Michael Hicks as the head of hockey operations, the Elite Ice Hockey League is pleased to announce that Luke Fisher has joined the league as media manager. Luke comes to the team after having worked for the European Broadcasting Union and on projects including the Champions Hockey League and DEL for esports in the Czech Republic. I'm not quite sure what that means. What?
It's a TV channel in the Czech Republic.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm presuming he's worked on like hockey broadcasting and media coverage in Europe.
Because esport, you know what esports is, right?
Yeah.
That's why I was so confused. I was like, a Champions Hockey League and DEL esports? How does that work?
No, I mean, don't hold me to it, but I think esports is like Czech Republic Sky Sports potentially.
I think you're right. Anyway,
so that'll be why.
The director of the director of hockey operations. Yeah, it's a new sport, hoppy. You just jump about the ice. Director of hockey operations, Michael Hicks, said of Luke's appointment, Luke is a solid addition to our team and will help grow the brand of the Elite Ice Hockey League. He brings a wealth of experience with him from working on content and social media projects for Junior Eurovision and Eurovision-related events. What's that got to do with anything? And in the ice hockey world, on the CHL and World Championships. We've been impressed with his ideas on creating more original content for the league channels and are looking forward to new features. I've got a good idea. Hire the two of us. We can help you. So
I was literally about to say, Luke, hit us up.
You want original content? Here we are. League Chairman Tony Smith wished to thank the existing media team for their work. On behalf of the league, I'd like to offer our thanks to Craig Anderson and Rob McGregor, who for the last 3 years have worked in a part-time role fulfilling the media duties of the league and have been instrumental in getting the league to the stage where we are now. Their contributions have been greatly appreciated by everyone, and we wish them the very best in the future. Lastly, before we finish this, he added, we've charged Luke with the task of improving both the league's online presence and output. Together, he and Michael will be working to improve many aspects of what we do across the league, both behind the scenes and in the public eye. I mean, this sounds good.
It sounds really good. Nothing against the two guys that were in it, but obviously because they were only able to do it part-time, they couldn't put everything into it.
Exactly.
I hope this guy is really, really strong. I hope he does some good stuff. My head is flourishing with ideas all of a sudden.
Why
Things that I'm sure yours is as well. I didn't even know there was a job going.
No, neither did I.
I hope that there's chance to interact with fans and see what their ideas is, what they want to see, and
there's a chance to work with content creators that want to help grow the sport in the country and abroad. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
There's now a contact us page,
guys. Luke, hit me up.
There's now a contact us page on the league website that says media relations.
Yeah, Luke, slide into my DMs, bro. What's going on? So, yeah, I mean, this sounds good in theory. Like,
it does.
I hope that the Elite League, they do more to push that, especially social media. Like, push more, have a bit more of a personality as well. Like, if they get tweets that go trending or social media posts that go trending for the right reasons because they're interesting or they're funny or they're unique, that will only benefit the league by helping get more bums in seats. So hopefully this all works out. Hopefully Luke has a little chat with me. I'll hit him up, see what's going on. But
nothing to lose by sending him an email.
Exactly. So that I think that's very much the same with this situation. I don't really see there being anything to lose with an appointment like this. Like, I don't really see how this can go horribly, awfully wrong. I hope I haven't jinxed it, obviously. Because what was being done already was very much like standard. It was good, of a good quality, and sort of the standard stuff that a league should do. So, what's going to happen is it's going to stay like that. Like, I think the worst that will happen is it stays like it is, which isn't.
It can't go backwards with somebody on it full time, so it can only go forwards.
Yeah, I agree. So, that's that piece of news. Let us know what you think in the chat. If you're listening on Spotify, if I put this up on Spotify, then soz. But, yeah, let us know in the chat. Of course, if you've got any questions, leave them till the end of the podcast. We've got...
On Spotify, is that not just audio only?
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's a good job the spreadsheet didn't work then, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's why I explained like what was going on in case we have any audio listeners. You see, I'm one step ahead, Chris. One step ahead. So moving on to the next piece of information. This is the last kind of big sort of British hockey as opposed to Elite League. Well, we don't know actually. So there's been an update. Max actually first tipped me off to this. I think it was a day or two after we did our last podcast. So there's been some plans to have an ice rink in Leeds for the last few years, and it's kind of gone through a tough few stretches by the sounds of it. Like companies not really sure what's going on, a company promising to make it, and then something happening, and then kind of all the updates going like dead in the water. However, we did get an update this last week. Apparently, Leeds are going to get an ice rink. The ice rink development at Elland Road is advancing at a positive rate since hold-up in November last year when high winds affected part of the structure and set the build back significantly. So obviously it was like they would have had to have pumped more money into it. Maybe the company either didn't have the money or didn't want to invest more money in what they were doing, so chose not to, and I assume another investor has come in. Let's read the rest of the article and find out. It now seems that the Leeds... What?
I was going to say, who was building it? Was it Carillion?
I don't know. Let's find out. It now seems that the Leeds public can look forward to an 1,800 capacity facility, which will be a great asset to the local area and also create a number of new jobs. Chief Operations Officer for Planet Ice has stated it's going to be a Planet Ice in Leeds by the looks of it.
Okay.
Chief Operations Officer for Planet Ice has stated, "We are really pleased with the way the rink is developing now. We have all the groundwork in place and the frame is 70% completed. Our aim is to see the rink open for late January 2019. That's not too bad.
Okay.
And also, just in case you guys are interested, Planet Ice is now planning out the process of applying for jobs at the new city rink and will be releasing information regarding job requirements and vacancies very soon via their social networking and their website, which you can find, and then they have a link here. So if you wanted a job and you live in Leeds and you want to have a job at a skating rink, well, wait till January next year and you might get your chance. I believe there was also something where they they're not quite sure what to... Okay, so backtrack a second. They're having this rink being built. From what I've heard, they're hoping to put a professional men's hockey team in the building for the 2019-2020 season. However, if it's being built if it's going to be finished building in 2019 in January, it will be the 1920 season, won't it? Because it'll be late 2019. Yeah. So they're hoping to have it ready for 2 seasons' time. We're not quite sure whether that's going to be an NIHL team or an Elite League team.
No, you mean next season? Next season. We're coming to the end of 2018.
Yes, you're absolutely right. What am I? I'm just falling apart here, lads. So, so for next season, they're hoping to ice a hockey team for next season.
Can they relocate Blackburn so we don't have to put up with that awful rink there?
I mean, I would suspect this just seems like a prime opportunity to stick them in the Elite League, right?
What, with only 1,800 seating?
Okay, hear me out, though. Hear me out.
Yeah, all right.
11 teams. We lost a team for this season. The league is looking for a new team to add to the pack to make it a 12-team league again. It's very clear that it's not happening in Edinburgh. The Murrayfield Ice Racers might come back. We haven't really had much of an update on that recently.
They are playing in the NIHL Cup.
Yeah, which is like, 4 games?
It's like 7 games, yeah.
Exactly, so that's nothing. So I consider them quite irrelevant now, to be honest. We'll see once the season ends and once developments are made as to what happens in that situation there. But I think this is a prime...
The favourite. I was going to say, the favourite is to promote the Hull Pirates because they had the Hull Stingrays. They've got all the Hull Stingrays fan base that have moved over to the Pirates, but they've still got the same arena and everything. So the favourite is to promote the Hull Pirates and then maybe add this Leeds team into the NIHL for its first season.
What capacity is the Hull Pirates arena?
Oh, I can't remember, but it's...
Is it more than this?
I think so, yes. I'll check it.
Interesting. I mean, okay, say if they didn't want to promote a team, this would make the most sense, right?
Yes.
New team. What better way to sort of advertise it by going, hey, look, you're going to join the top flight of British hockey. let's a new city, new market. Let's see how it goes. If it goes badly, drop them down to the NIHL and stick Hull up, for example. You know, like I think that might be the plan. They're wanting to play professional men's hockey by next season. I wouldn't be surprised if they got put in the Elite League.
The Hull Pirates were formed when the Stingrays went into liquidation, and the arena's got a capacity of nearly 4,000.
Wow, well, that would make a lot more sense.
So they are in a sense the same team. Yeah.
The only thing I would say is obviously like I think it would. I don't know, like. Maybe lead. Yeah, maybe it is a case of they're saying they're wanting to ice a professional hockey team, and the only professional league in this country, I would argue, is the Elite League.
Yeah.
I mean, the NIHL is a semi-professional, right?
It's semi-pro, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's interesting.
Yeah. Max is interesting, saying that the first game might be a university league game.
I think that'd be smart. Yeah. I think the best thing to do would this could be a good time, especially when it opens up, to get all the different age groups, all the different sort of youth cups and stuff going to Leeds if they're nearby.
Yep.
Like, what better way to advertise it than getting the youth and and people that might not necessarily be interested in it? I think they could do something really good here, you know?
They could.
I mean, 1,800 capacity isn't the best, but I think it's a start.
Yeah, it's a start, definitely.
I mean, I would. That's not that much lower than Guildford or Milton Keynes, I wouldn't think. So if they can be in the league, why can't these guys? You know, of course they've had to toil away in the NIHL for years, but I don't know. Who knows? There's been a lot of talk as what their nickname might be. The Leeds something. Let us know what you think. The Leeds. What would you give the nickname to a Leeds hockey team if they were going to be in the Elite Ice Hockey League? I'd be interested to know what you guys think.
So,
have
you got any ideas, just very quickly?
I don't know what I keep thinking. The only thing that keeps coming to my head is the Leeds Lancers. I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if that's relevant at all to Leeds. It's the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds it was very industrial. Like, that's where the Sheffield Steelers has come from, is their steel.
Exactly.
Leeds is famous for cloth. Not entirely sure they're going to be called the Leeds Loomers.
That would be good. That would be good. The Leeds Loomers. I love it. You see, the problem that I have with, like, for example, if this team, like, talk about nicknames and everything, Leeds, it's one syllable. Most other teams have at least two syllables in their in their city name before the nickname. It just sounds so weird calling them the Leeds something. Like, you're used to going like the Milton Keynes Lightning or the Guildford Flames or the Sheffield Steelers. Like
if you have a long nickname, like, I don't know, if, say, for example, the Leeds Lightning, it's going to be really weird.
Yeah, exactly. Or they could go like full East Coast Hockey League and call them like the like, have some stupid nickname like the Leeds Swamp Loomers or something.
Yeah.
You know, like, just go full on stupid, ridiculous. But yeah, so that's the lead update on the Leeds ice rink from what we know so far. So now we're going to talk about the topic that we said we were going to talk about last week, but we overran in time.
We never got around to it.
Exactly. So it's kind of relatively relevant still. Maybe not so much for one team. However, Sheffield and Nottingham, we talk about them a lot on this podcast.
We do.
Especially Sheffield these last few weeks. Well, not so much these last few weeks, but like the last month we talked about them.
Yeah.
So with Sheffield sitting at 10th place in the league, I'm sure that's bound to change. But with Sheffield sitting at the 10th spot in the league and Nottingham looking, once all the games have been played, for other teams to catch up to the amount that they've played, they're going to be sitting at a mid-table position, I would expect. With those two teams not really doing too well, and with those teams having histories of continued success and trophies and top of the league and fighting for every single trophy in the league, who will take their place in the Elite League now that they're kind of struggling? It looks with the standings or the positions that they're in at the moment, there's space for 2 other teams to come in and take their place. So my question is, who, Chris, do you think is going to take their place in the league?
In terms of what, being a dominant team, or?
Yeah, I mean, but let's talk short term, then talk long term. So short term this season.
Okay. Well, to me, I want to immediately eliminate the teams that are already big, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the arena teams.
Yeah, so Cardiff and Belfast.
Yep. Okay.
I'm not going to say that Cardiff are going to replace Nottingham because.
Well, yeah, Cardiff are going to be up the top anyway. Like, let's be honest.
Exactly. I mean, I really like Fife so far this season.
Me too. Yep.
Considering we're a fifth of the way through the league now, for Fife to be up there is really strong. Guildford again are doing well.
I would really like to see Guildford jump up into a top 5 position. Just think they joined the league. They joined the league last season.
I'd like Guildford. I mean, I would say MK as well, but it looks like they're not going to. I'd like Guildford to get to finals weekend.
That would be awesome. That would be so good.
I would really like that. Coventry are being a bit quiet. I mean, they've had a bad Challenge Cup, but that's out the way now, so they've got less games than everybody else.
Yeah.
So, and they're kind of sneaking up. I mean, if they take their games in hand over Nottingham, I mean, that's up to, you're getting up into the mid-20s there for Coventry with Nottingham back on 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Fife and Guildford are the two that are standing out for me.
Yeah. To give you a bit of context on Fife, for example, they have 9 regulation wins so far this year. Last year, they had 33 in 56 games. They currently have 9 in 12.
Yeah, so that's set for 45
exactly.
out of 60.
So if they keep going the pace that they're going at the moment, they're going to completely surpass
that's
last
up in
season.
9 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see Fife in the top 5 this season. Just to give you a bit of context as to last season again, so the top 5 teams in the league last season: Cardiff at first, Manchester at second, Sheffield at third, Nottingham at fourth, and Belfast at fifth. That was how the top 5 were placed last season. Then 6th and 7th, we had Guildford and Fife. So they've kind of been nipping at the heels. I mean, Guildford was only 1 point behind Belfast, and Fife only 2. So it's not as if these 2 teams were that far out of a top 5 finish last season, and they're looking in a much better position so far this year. I definitely think Guildford and Fife could take the place of Nottingham and Sheffield this year in the top 5.
Oh yeah.
I've got to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Nottingham and Sheffield took Guildford and Fife's places at 6th and 7th. That just seems to make sense,
Yeah, and it's like from a Nottingham fan point of view, I don't like it.
Yeah, of course.
From a league point of view, I think it's brilliant.
I think it's great. Yeah, it just goes to show how competitive this league is now.
Yeah,
like every single team seems to have players that have played hundreds of games in the AHL or the ECHL. They've got lots of players that have come through the university ranks or the major junior leagues in Canada. Most rosters have a player that's at least played in the NHL. I'm pretty sure every single roster has at least a player that was drafted into the NHL. Like, sure, we're still a league that's getting quite a lot of the scraps that North America throw away, but we're using them to our advantage to make a very competitive league. Like, if for example, you take last year, of course, I'm talking about a team that was really bad last year in Edinburgh. They had 5 wins last year, right, in the league.
Mm-hmm.
If you take into account, so let me just double check their points just before we do this. So they had 11 points last season, right?
Yeah, it was five wins and an overtime loss, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah. So they had 11 points last season. Sheffield and Milton Keynes are the only 2 teams to have not hit 11 points so far this season, and we're only about a quarter of the way in.
Yeah.
Like that goes to show how different the league is compared to last year. And the difference in points so far, there's 13 points separating 1st and 11th.
Yeah.
That's not that much.
No, I mean, yes, it's 7 games, but, it can change. If you're playing, that's only, 3 weeks or something when you're playing Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. So last season, the difference between Milton Keynes at 11th and Edinburgh at 12th was 31 points.
Yeah.
Take them out of the equation. The difference between 1st and 11th, so Milton Keynes last year, to Cardiff was 43 points.
I must say, after watching the Lions so far this season, I know what it feels like to be an Edinburgh fan. It's what?
You're united in failure, you know?
I think it's 0-0 and 11 now, or it might be 0-0 and 10, but...
Oh, that is rough. Ouch. Yeah, the other interesting team, I think, so for example, if we had our top 4 at the moment, like just from what we've said, are Fife, Belfast, Cardiff, and Guildford. Not in that order, obviously. Like we don't know where they're going to place. Yeah. So then a 5th team. Take into account last year, Manchester was 2nd in the league last year. They're currently sitting 7th. Sorry, 8th. With 11 points. So that opens up, for example, another position. Which, you know what? I think Coventry can stick into the top 5. If they keep going this way. They've quietly gone about their business. I mean, that makes sense for Fife, like, if you take the top 6 in the league at the moment, Fife, Belfast, Nottingham, Cardiff, Guildford, Coventry. So it would make sense for Coventry to jump in if Nottingham dropped as a result of everybody playing their same amount of games. I mean, Coventry, for example, they've got 7 games in hand on Nottingham. They only need 7 points.
Yeah.
That's not that many. They're going 6-3-1 this year. They've won their last 3 games. So I would not be surprised if halfway through the season we saw a top 5 of Cardiff, Fife, Belfast, Guildford and Coventry. If you had told us that at the start of the season, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
Because of how silly that sounds. But like, I'm glad
great
that's
thing about sport.
Exactly. I'm glad that that's a scenario. Like, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so good for the competitiveness of the league. And as much as I know Edinburgh fans might hate to hear this, I'm so glad they're not in the league anymore for stuff like this. You know? Sure, it screws up the Challenge Cup and makes that hella confusing. But, like, just looking at the league, it's competitive. Like, there isn't really that much in it. Sure, we're only about a quarter of the way into the season, but there isn't really that much in it at the moment. Like, there's still everything to play for, whereas Edinburgh, they would have lost every single game that they've played so far. They would have been out of it by now. Yeah, I mean, you could argue to an extent Milton Keynes, they're on 7 points, they're bottom. They've got a couple of games on hand compared to Nottingham, for example. But I don't think you could immediately say, yeah, they're out of it. They're probably going to be out of it, which is a shame because they've got some good players and they're a good team there. And I think they've really built on their success from last year. But, I mean, to see the likes of Sheffield down at 10th place, to see Nottingham having 20 points, they've played more games than any other team in the league. They're on a 2-game losing streak at the moment. They've allowed more goals than they've scored. They're meant to be an offensive scoring team. It just goes to show you the kind of difference that we've got. And I guess the question is now, Chris, that's essentially the first part of the question, as opposed to just this season, will something like this continue long term?
I hope so. I hope we have a really competitive league for years to come. This season has been great because, like, you wouldn't have said at the start of the season that Guildford would beat Cardiff 5-2.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it makes our life interesting. You never know what's going to happen one game to... I mean, what was it? Was that something like... Was it 5-1 Milton Keynes beat Panthers the other day?
Yeah.
And Milton Keynes are stone dead bottom of the league at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Like, there isn't a situation now... Like, of course, I'm bringing Edinburgh back into it again. But, like, it was the running joke that you go to Edinburgh, you get your 2 points, you leave. Like, they win maybe 1-2 games a year. Congratulations. You won your games. You wanted it more than the other team that night. You played better than the other team that night. But most of the time you don't. So, we'll take our 2 points, have a nice weekend, have a nice season. Whereas, like you just said, you can't expect that anymore.
No.
Like, if you take a team for granted in this league, they will notch up 5 goals on you and win the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's slightly kind of... I won't say counterproductive, but kind of Elite League this weekend, once
Yeah.
everything decides to load up, like trying to work out who's going to win this weekend.
Yeah. Like, it's a nightmare
just-
for sports betting.
Oh yeah. But okay, so this weekend, Sheffield and Coventry. Like Sheffield could turn up, or Coventry could.
Coventry could continue to play well, or Sheffield could carry on their momentum. Like,
Yeah,
I
but then
would
you've got-
say Coventry, but you just don't know.
Yeah, then you've got Glasgow and Cardiff. Well, you'd think Cardiff, really.
You go Cardiff because they've only lost one league game. Like, the only outlier in this whole sort of, like, the league is super competitive at the moment, I would argue, is Cardiff.
But then you've got Fife and Belfast, and that's going to be a good game.
That's going to be a good game.
That's going to be a good game. It really is. And then, what else have you got? You've got, like, Sheffield Dundee is going to be interesting as well towards the bottom there.
Yeah.
There's good games coming up.
Like, there's lots of little, like, interweaving storylines that are taking place in the league now. Like, it's not as if it's just, oh, watch these three teams that have the most money and the most fans get the victories. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
of course, it's easy for us to say we support one of the most popular teams in the league. Like, I mean, we could always be like, oh, look at these poor teams. Like, oh, it's nice that the other teams are getting a chance. No, we don't think like that at all. Like, I think it's awesome that like you said, Chris, that the league is so competitive now that you just don't know wwho's going to win. It's like the NHL. It's like the NHL now, you know. You don't know who's going to win each game. Sure, as the season goes on, you can make an educated guess. Or you can look at the stats and go, Cardiff have only lost one league game so far this year. Chances are they're going to win. They're on a 6-game winning streak. I'd be surprised if they lost.
Yeah.
But they could still lose. Which
They
I think
could,
is
yeah.
the amazing thing. So, is this a sign of things to come? I hope so. I hope so. I really do. I think a competitive Elite League will only... If you've only got 3 teams winning games all the time, the fans of the teams that lose aren't really going to want to go as often as they might want to if their team is winning. There's no better way to advertise a sports team than by the team winning. And getting trophies and going on winning streaks and having home stands where they score 5 goals a game. That's the way to get fans in the seats. Yeah, when teams go through losing streaks, and it happens in a season. Like, it's part of sports. Like, you win and you lose. You've got to be able to deal with both. But there's quite a lot of fans that would watch when your team wins and don't when they don't, which is fair. Like, I understand that. But that doesn't mean that if you go on a massive winning streak that you won't have new fans that wouldn't have seen how competitive the league was stick around. You know, I think it's great. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I do.
So, let's move on from the Elite Ice Hockey League to the NHL. So, from EIHL, we travel across the pond to the NHL. So, for those of you who are unaware, with the clocks going, was it back? The clocks went back, didn't they?
Yeah, they went back, yeah.
The clocks went back on Saturday. So that means for the next 2 weeks or so, I love this time, for the next couple of weeks or so.
Technically Sunday, but yes.
The next 2 weeks or so, NHL games start an hour earlier. So a game that would usually start
until they swap their clocks.
Exactly, which is in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
But you got time. For example, Toronto are playing Calgary tonight. Starts at 11 p.m. I might check it out. There you go. Speaking of Toronto, at the top of the league, we have Nashville and Toronto and Colorado, all with 16 points. However, Nashville and Toronto have one game in hand on the Avalanche. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, but Toronto is suddenly about to plummet.
Well, yeah, they're 7-3-0 in their last 10 games. They're 8-3-0 on the season. They have a goal difference of +7. They're undefeated away from home.
They were last, but they've lost Matthews for a month.
Yes. Okay, we can talk about this now then if you want.
No,
so,
I was just mentioning it because
right.
why are you doing Toronto?
So, unfortunately, there was a bit of a blow to the Toronto Maple Leafs team. Austin Matthews, the guy who has 10 goals and 16 points in 11 games so far this season, has unfortunately been placed on injured reserve as he's going to have soldier surgery on an injury that he suffered to his shoulder. He'll be out for at least 4 weeks. Left shoulder injury, just in case you were curious. He'll be placed on injury reserve on Monday. It's the type of injury is similar to the right shoulder injury he sustained February 22nd that kept him out 10 games. He also says surgery is not necessary, but I think he's doing it just to make sure. The 21-year-old was injured on a hit by Winnipeg Jets defenseman Jacob Trouba as he drove to the net during the second period of the Maple Leafs' 3-2 win at Scotiabank Arena against the Jets. So it's just an unfortunate situation, really. You kind of knew that something like this was going to happen. Not like he's going to get deliberately injured, but of course players go through injuries. Like, it's part of the NHL season. If you play 82 games in a season, there's going to be times
you're going to get hurt at some point.
Yeah, it's just a shame that he's out for so long. Because he's scored 16 points in 11 games. He's almost a goal a game for the entirety of the season so far, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, if he wasn't injured, he probably could have broken some sort of record, or I mean, they've already broken about 1 billion records apparently so far this season. That's a real shame. I think it's a real shame. But other than that, so Tampa, Winnipeg, Chicago on 15 points. They take the technically second place in the league. Then we have Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Montreal, Boston, and San Jose on 14 points. Then Edmonton, Buffalo, Carolina on 13 points. Columbus, Washington, Vancouver, and Anaheim on 12 points. The Islanders, Calgary, and Vegas on 11 points. Dallas, Arizona, and Ottawa on 10 points. The St. Louis Blues are on 9 points. The Philadelphia Flyers are on 8 points. The Florida Panthers, the LA Kings, and the New York Rangers are all on 7 points. And last place in the league, tag for Hughes. And for 31st place in the league is the Detroit Red Wings with 6 points. So currently there is 10 points separating first and 31st. There's a couple of teams that haven't hit double-digit goals yet, being Florida and New Jersey. Yes, you know what I mean. Florida and New Jersey are the only 2 teams that haven't played at least 10 games.
And Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah, you're right. And Pittsburgh as well. My mistake. Most teams have played about 11, 12 games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just more of the same, really, compared to the...
Yeah, I mean, they've all played another couple of games since last week, and it's all pretty much the same. Yeah,
I mean, the LA Kings managed to break a 6-game losing streak, 5-6-game losing streak, when they beat the Rangers. Thanks, Kings.
Minnesota are on a 5-game winning streak.
What's that?
Minnesota on a 5-game winning streak.
Are they? So that's why I did so well in my fantasy. Devin Dubnik's been lighting it up. Good man.
Yeah.
Good
man. Not quite as well as me, though.
So
we'll get to that.
We will. So yeah, the LA Kings, Alec Martinez scoring the game-winning goal on us brought me back some PTSD from 2014 Stanley Cup Finals. Thanks for that, LA Kings. So just if you want to know some of the more interesting winning streaks taking place, Pittsburgh have won their last 4. Minnesota have won their last 5. Edmonton have won their last 3. It's now a case where Connor McJesus isn't scoring every single goal for their team, so they're actually starting to win games. Other than that, we've got the Rangers have lost 2 straight. The Flyers have lost 3 straight. Arizona Coyotes have won 3 straight. But other than that, there isn't really a huge amount going on.
That's it, really. I mean, there's not really a lot to say.
They've only played about 11, 12 games, so there you go.
Mm.
So moving on to sort of some NHL news, as it were. Over the last week, there was a update on the Tom Wilson suspension. For those of you who don't know, during a preseason game between the Washington Capitals and the St. Louis Blues, Tom Wilson delivered a hit to the head of St. Louis Blues player Oskar Sundqvist, and it was deemed a intentional hit to the head, and the Department of Player Safety suspended Tom Wilson for 20 regular season games. I believe it took place in the last preseason game. It might have been the penultimate preseason game for the Caps, but they suspended him 20 games of the regular season for it. And there was a appeal that was held recently, and Gary Bettman and the higher-ups in the NHL board decided to uphold the 20-game suspension. So Tom Wilson still has about 8, 9, maybe 10 games to serve of his suspension. So Chris, I assume you've seen the hit, right?
Yes, because we covered it when it first happened.
Yes.
But it has been a while.
It has been a little while, yeah. So Tom Wilson suspended 20 games. The fact that it's been upheld by the NHL, do you agree with it? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts?
I seem to remember when it first happened, thinking that it wasn't long enough.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I seem to remember that. I seem to remember. I mean, you'd have to listen back to the previous one. I seem to remember saying ban him until the new year. So I think it is right. Yes, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean,
if that was the initial decision, the appeal happened. They've looked at it again, and they've stuck with what they went with first time. So.
Yeah. So, just to play devil's advocate here, I'll just point out that I think the 20 games is right. I think he should... He's already served half of it, roughly. He may as well serve the rest of it, because it was a nasty hit. To play devil's advocate, the argument that has been made, sort of saying, he should have been suspended 20 games, not necessarily saying he shouldn't have been suspended at all, but the 20 games is a little bit too excessive. The argument that has been made several times from what I've seen is that Oscar Sundqvist, during the hit... had his head down, and that's the one thing that you don't do in hockey, especially when you're moving up the ice against a guy like Tom Wilson. I can see what you mean. Like, you've got to keep your head up. Like, that's one of the first rules that you learn as a hockey player, from what I would assume, and from what I've heard from other people. You keep your head up, especially when you're playing against a checking forward line. But that doesn't excuse what Tom Wilson did. He could have aimed lower. He should have aimed lower on Sundqvist, or he should have just avoided the hit altogether. I'm not saying this to be like...
Is that it's not... It wasn't accidental. He almost aimed for the head.
Yeah. I'm not one of these people that wants hitting taken out of hockey. I think it needs to be contained in a certain environment, that it limits the amount of injuries as much as possible. Oh, excuse me. But I definitely think that 20 games was right. I think they would have been setting a very bad example if they had limited this by a certain amount of games. It's just not the right thing to do. So, yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, in more light-hearted news, we've just got a few quick pieces of information here on the NHL.
Yeah, it's very newsy this week.
Yeah, there's just like little bits. Like I tried to find a few bits that might not necessarily be talked about on other podcasts. Just sort of like little interesting pieces of information here and there, like that I see as the week goes on. For example, the Gordie Howe Bridge, and this one.
Yeah.
NHL 94 has turned 25 years old.
Woo!
So the what's often been called sort of the granddad of. Or the pioneer of the modern hockey video game. Some people are probably kind of wishing that it hasn't got to this point nowadays with NHL 19. But so EA Sports' NHL 94, which I have played on an episode of Hockey Game History. I believe it was the first game that I played on my Hockey Game History series. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite a lot of fun. It was made by Sega. I thought it was EA. Was it EA or Sega? I can't remember.
No, Sega did 94.
Yeah, well, that's what...
I think EA came in about 96, didn't they?
You might be right there. I can't remember. I've got an article up here, but it's so long.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Talking about other people's experiences and stuff with the game, like players' experiences. But yeah, NHL 94 is 25 years old. If you want to try and play it, there's loads of emulated versions that you can play via browser online. So go and take a look at that if you're interested. I thought that was just a really cool piece of information. I remember that NHL 14, I think it was 14, they did like an anniversary mode, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
To celebrate, 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's NHL 19 now, so yeah, it would be 5 years ago. So the 20-year anniversary of NHL 94 coming out. It was an EA, it is an EA game. NHL 94 was EA. Yes, it was.
So what was your first NHL game?
My first NHL game was 2004.
Mine was 2001. It was brilliant because you could set it on manual shooting, and then every time you won the face-off, you could shoot from halfway, and it would lob it, and the keeper would never save it. And you could score every 5 seconds with manual shooting because it was broken in the sense that when you had a shot, how you were holding the left analog stick deemed like the trajectory in the loft and what have you.
Right,
but because
okay.
you were holding it up to skate forward when you were doing it, he just lobbed it in every time. It was brilliant. It just didn't work in one period when everything just skimmed along the floor.
Right. I have a lot of fond memories of NHL 2004. I think one of the fondest memories I have is back when I was in like primary school or high school, like making all of my friends on NHL 2004.
Yeah.
I made our own team and I stuck us in franchise mode, and I basically made all of us like 99 overall. And we just destroyed the entirety of the NHL. I was the captain, obviously, and I went on to score like 3 goals a game for the entirety of the season. And just the days where I used to just do a play now of the Dallas Stars against the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. I have so many fond memories, and of course I've talked about this a lot on my channel, obviously, like how I first got into hockey. I've answered this question about 1 billion times, but just sort of playing it, then leaving it for a few years, then coming back to it because I was bored one day, and here we are. Like that's how much I enjoyed that game. Then from there, I started consecutively buying the series at NHL 11. I've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. I've also got NHL 09 that I bought once we'd hit about 15, 16, I think. And then, no, it's more 12, 13 that I bought because I wanted to play it on the PC. And then, of course, since I've done the Hockey Game History series, I've bought basically every single one that's been on the Xbox and PlayStation 4. So I need to do some more episodes in that series. I really enjoy that series. So
good series.
Indeed it is. Thank you. So, NHL 94 has turned 25 years old. If you want to go and have a bit of nostalgia or go and see where hockey games all began, go find a copy and give it a go. Or watch my video. It's pretty good. So, moving on to the last piece of news with the NHL. This is just another quick piece of news. For those of you European NHL fans, those of you fans that want to watch an NHL game but don't want to have to stay up till midnight to watch it, I know there's plenty of you out there. You're not all as crazy.
Yeah, me included.
Yes, I know that you're all not all as crazy or as unemployed as I am right now, but there will be the opportunity.
I was going to say it's the employment thing. That's the.
It's a bit of both. Let's be honest. Like no normal human stays up till like 3 o'clock in the morning every time their team plays a game. I try as much as I can. But when they go on their like Californian road trip and their games start at 3:30 in the morning, I'm just like, nope, I'll check the score tomorrow. Yeah. Chances are they've lost.
Yeah.
Especially
well, they're the Rangers.
So yes, on Thursday at 6 p.m. British time. So that's what is that? Is that 2 p.m.? Yeah, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Eastern. Eastern. So that would be 11 Pacific.
11 a.m.
There you go.
Western, yeah.
The Florida Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets are going head-to-head for the second part of the NHL Global Series. Of course, we had the New Jersey Devils and the Edmonton Oilers go against each other in Switzerland. However, this one's taking place in Helsinki, Finland. There's a big reason for that.
The Oilers Jersey game was Sweden because the Devils played Bern in Switzerland and they went to Sweden.
Excuse me. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Oilers Devils game was played in Sweden. It's the Devils went and played in Switzerland for that preseason game.
They
first.
played Bern, yeah.
Hisches from my mistake. Absolutely right. Thank you, Chris. But this game takes place in Helsinki, Finland, and there's several Finnish players on either roster. Of course, the two big ones being Patrick Laine and Alexander Barkov. Of the Winnipeg Jets and the Florida Panthers, respectively. They're the two sort of big players on either team that are from the area. And this is, of course, another example. We've had the China games, we've had the game in Sweden, and we've got this game in Helsinki. It's to grow the league overseas, and I think it's going to be great. I'm going to hopefully tune in if I get the chance. I think it's going to be a good game. The Florida Panthers have obviously struggled so far this season. The Winnipeg Jets have had a pretty good start to the year. So, will we see a team start to go on the rise? Will we see a bit more of the same? I guess we'll find out. So, yeah, I thought that was a really good piece of news. Let's move on. Let's move on to Kirk's Corner. Kirk's Corner. So, Liam Kirk's really not having a good time at the moment, is he?
No, so... I mean, I had a check today just to make sure, because he's still on 4 points, but now 16 games. He was on like 4 points through 4 games, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got Yeah, he was going 2 points a game. I think he got 4 points in 2 or 3 games.
His 4 points came in the first 3 games. He got an assist
There you go.
in his very first game. Then he scored the game after that. Then he got a goal and an assist the game after that. But in the last 13 games, he hasn't done anything. Now, I checked because I'd heard that he had a little bit of an injury.
Right.
So I checked to see if he actually, if his point production was down because he was missing a load of games.
Right.
But he has played in every single game, and he's had shots in every single game bar one. The only problem is that the EIHL don't do time on ice, so I can't see how many shifts he's getting.
Right, yeah, so...
And then naughty Liam Kirk took a 2-minute penalty as well.
So, yeah, to be honest, it's a bit of a real shame what's going on there. I mean, Liam Kirk, he hasn't scored a point in his last, 13 games? So he's really struggling to adjust to the North American game, which, I mean... Some people might be like, God, I mean, like, he's the best British young hockey player that we've got. Why isn't he scoring a goal every game? Let me just put this into perspective for those of you that might not know. He's 18 years old. He has moved across the world to go and play in a league. He was drafted very high in the import draft. He's
been like 7th, wasn't he, in the import draft?
I think so. He's playing in a league where a noticeable percentage of players move on to the NHL. He was born in England. He played for Sheffield. To go from Sheffield...
The people he's playing against could skate before they could walk.
Exactly. Like, I'm not saying that Liam Kirk shouldn't be doing better. Like, I know that the two of us are a bit disappointed with how well he's been playing recently. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. Maybe he's struggling to adjust. It's just not all clicking at the moment, which is a shame because, of course, we've got the example of Ben O'Connor going overseas, not really clicking for him in Sweden. We've got the example of Evan Mosey going back to the AHL last season, not really clicking too much there and coming back to Nottingham and blah, blah, blah. Like, we've got examples, we've had several examples previously of Elite League players going overseas and it's not really worked out, so they've had to come back to the Elite League to play. We don't want this to be the case for Kirk, so we're a bit disappointed to see that it's going this way.
Really hoping that he does well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, it's a long season. He was a 7th round draft pick. He's got 2 more years after this of eligibility, I believe, in the OHL.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So he can play as an overager. So he's got plenty of chance to find his game and get going. Yeah. If not, I'm sure he'll find a space in one of the top European leagues. He's that kind of player. Like we said before, he's one of those players that he might not show up on the score sheet every night, but he does his job well. So hopefully, I think it's a case of he just needs to get that 1 goal and then he'll be rolling again. So it's a shame Liam Kirk's not doing too well. He's doing better in my Be a Pro mode, that's for sure. So if you want to see him doing well, go check out my Be a Pro mode. I'm just plugging all my stuff today. It's great. And that's Kirk's Corner. Kirk's Corner. There's not really much else to say about that. It's like quite a lot of stuff we've talked about. It's just kind of... I mean... Everything's going through the motions.
Yeah, like Kirk's played some more games, he hasn't scored a point, moving on. It's that sort of thing, really.
We could sum it up literally like that, but we like to be a bit more poetic about what we say. Yeah. So,
otherwise, this podcast would be like 20 minutes.
Exactly. So, I want to just go back to some KHL news again. I just thought there was something interesting. Like, we usually... I've kind of brought it up the last few times because of Avto Mobilist and their winning streak and everything. And I'm just feel like I'd like to try and do my part to promote one of the big European leagues that maybe doesn't get as fair of a shake as some of the other ones, because we can't understand what they're saying in commentary, and because they're quite far away, and because they're kind of seen as like the dollar store version of the NHL and things like that. Like, I think it's a really good league, and it's got a lot of ex-NHL players, a lot of players that could play in the NHL right now but have chosen to go and play in the KHL. There's a lot of good players in there. But instead of Avto Mobilist and their winning streak and all that stuff being in the news, the first set of KHL World Games took place this last weekend. So the KHL, similarly to the NHL's the KHL, they wanted to grow their brand across Europe. So they this weekend, they played a couple of games in Vienna on the 27th and 28th of October. HC Slovan Bratislava was the home team for both of those games. I don't know the exact rink that they were playing in. Oh, they were playing in the same rink as the Vienna Capitals, I know that much. But they went to play in Vienna, and unfortunately it wasn't a very good time for Slovan, I've got to admit. So, Slovan, they had 2 different teams on 2 different nights. The first one was CSKA Moscow, one of the best teams in the league at the moment, and that has been for a while. And then the second team they played was SKA St. Petersburg. So, HC Slovan Bratislava had a very, very tough time in these games, and unfortunately it showed in the scoreline. Because unfortunately, Slovan didn't score a single goal in either 2 of these games. They were beaten by CSKA Moscow 9-0 on the Saturday, and then beaten 7-0 against SKA St. Petersburg. That's 16 goals allowed, 0 scored.
Know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So, the only thing I'm thinking is this wasn't really the best way to advertise the KHL. I like the fact that they were showing, like, that they're doing this. I think it's a brilliant idea, especially to kind of grow the brand of the KHL. I mean, there's been rumours and talks for the last few years of the KHL team coming to London, for example. Like, there's actually been, like, proper talks about potentially that happening. So I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd go watch them. But I think it's a situation where HC Slovan Bratislava, they're known as one of these sort of bottom-feeding teams in the league at the moment. They haven't been very good for the last few years. They're expected to be nearer the bottom of the table. What they should have done was, what I think they should have done was, they should have gotten the Gagarin Cup champion, AK Bars Kazan, to be the home team. Of course, they play in Kazakhstan, so there's different geography based. And then have CSKA Moscow and then SK St. Petersburg visit. You want to put your best teams, right?
Well, I mean, there's no point. Like, I mean, that's almost the equivalent of having Nottingham and Cardiff go and play, I don't know, Bracknell.
Yeah.
It's not really going to show it off in the best light. So, I mean, if you really wanted to show them off, you have Moscow against St. Petersburg, don't you? That'd be the...
Yeah. That would be a solid game. So, that was a bit of a shame for Slovan, but I mean, CSKA Moscow and SK St. Petersburg both played fantastically. What I would add is, there is another set of World Games taking place in Zurich, where the Zurich Lions play, of course, the team that beat the Panthers in the Champions Hockey League last season. A very good team, where Austin Matthews played his draft year, I should also add, which is quite fantastic. Instead of going through the major junior leagues, he decided to go and play for Zurich, which I thought was pretty cool. So, yeah, the 25th and 26th of November, I believe, is when these games are taking place in Zurich. They're doing the same format of one team being a home team. This time it's Dynamo Riga. And they are playing CSKA Moscow and SK St. Petersburg again. So they're getting those 2 top teams to go and visit again. And I'm going to go and see the SK St. Petersburg Dynamo Riga game in Zurich, which is going to be pretty cool. It's one of my sort of birthday present things going on there. It's like the big sort of surprise. I'd been wanting to go and see an SK St. Petersburg game for a while. It's just kind of like, it just didn't make sense for me to go. Then, like, these World Games, Zurich, it's like a 90-minute flight. So I figured it out with the family. I'm going with a couple of people. So I think it's going to be really cool. I ordered some St. Petersburg stuff from their store a month ago, and it still hasn't turned up, even though it said 5 to 10 days delivery. So that's really good. So I'm in constant battle with the shop, dealing with that. But that's a conversation for off a podcast. So if you're interested in going to see them, whether you live near Zurich, whether you are interested in going as a once-in-a-lifetime trip, whatever, they take place. I assume there's tickets still available. It's in like a 10,000-seater arena. It's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably going to do a vlog on it as well. So
that'll be a good one to watch.
Experience there. So definitely, I would love to do something like that. But yeah, that's the KHL news. So I think the penultimate thing we do, or the last main thing we do, is we look at the scores for the what's it called? For the Fantasy League. Yes.
Yeah, we do. Here we go.
Fantasy League scores. So,
I love how just before the fantasy draft, I mean, we were talking. I was like, yeah, I'm interested, and I'll make sure I'll update it, but I don't really care that much. As soon as I go top of the league, I'm like, right.
Now you're invested. See, this is what fantasy hockey does to you.
I know.
And then, for example, if you went and lost the rest, like loads of games, you'd be still looking at it every day to see if you could try and win. See,
I know, but it's you versus me next week, so.
Oh, that's gonna be good. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take it down a notch, Chris. Gonna have to give you that first L of the season.
The Nottingham Lions are 4-0-0. Deal with it. I've only got 2 players playing today.
Wow. Well, yeah.
No, actually, no. Let's be right. Yeah, let's be right. I've only got 1 because one of them Nylander, so I've only got Johnny Gaudreau playing.
Yeah. So the the scores from last week's fantasy hockey look a little bit like this. So you can't see us for the moment. Not really that fast. I had the best overall score, I think.
No, you didn't.
The difference is what I mean.
Oh, sorry, right, yes.
You know what I mean. So, I won against Trump's fake wife, 93-27. So I did all right. Now this one, Stanley Yelnats against the Pyongyang Sucklers, 1 point. Literally 1 point in it. That is crazy.
Stanley Yelnats getting their first win of the campaign as well.
Then the Shore Billionaires beat the Nottingham Red Hawks by a score of 79-43. Clarkie's Infants won 73-66 on the Toronto Thunderbirds. Chris's Nottingham Lions, the only wins they're going to get this season, won 113.
You won't be invited back if you say that.
Yeah, fair enough. Nah, you've still got a chance. They'll be fine. The Nottingham Lions 113-77. Then the Portsmouth Pirates won 112-78. The Duncan PlayStations, who had a bye week last week, they beat Max. Ooh.
Yeah.
116-66. And then the Habs Suck beat the Croatian Jets 95-56.
Yeah, there's only 2 teams that are, won everything now.
Yeah, so Chris's team has won, and is it what the Beanheads?
It's Shore Billionaires.
Oh, the Shore Billionaires. Ah, yeah,
but
there you go.
Something's got to give because those 2 are going up against each other. I'm playing Shore Billionaires this week.
Oh, interesting.
So something's got to give.
Speaking of which, let's move to week 5, which ends the 4th of November. So I am up against the Nottingham Red Hawks, who have not won a single game this season, so hoping for good things. Then, like you said, the 2 undefeated teams are going up this week. The Shore Billionaires and the Nottingham Lions. Then we have the Toronto Thunderbirds against the Pyongyang Sucklords, both 1-3-0, so looking for that second win of the season. Then we've got the Beanheads, who are coming off a bye week, and the Nottingham Outlaws, who are both 2-1-0 on the season, so one person's getting their second loss of the season. Then we've got the Portsmouth Pirates against Stanley Yelnats. Interesting matchup there. Then we've got the Duncan PlayStations against the Nottingham Yeet, so Yeet are looking for their first win of the season still. Habs Suck, don't know, and the Denver Sports Team, one of them's going to get an L. They're both 3-1-0 so far this season. Then Trump's Fake Wife and Clarkie's Infants are going off in the 4th.
I'm so happy. My bye week is the week between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
Really? That's not too bad then.
So I don't. But if you go to the entire league and sort it by points scored, Nottingham Lions are top on 336 and Shore Billionaires are on 335.
Oh.
One point in it. And then the Lions have conceded 1 point less than the Billionaires as well. So I reckon that's going to be really close this week.
I will just add that I'm third.
Yeah, well, the points are slightly more difficult because some have had bye weeks and what have you. But yeah, so once this podcast is done in a few minutes, I need to go and make sure I'm all right for this week.
Yes, I did mine a couple of hours ago, I believe. So
yeah, I always do mine after the stream. So I was busy trying to work out the Challenge Cup this week.
Yes, the problem is I've got a couple of players on injured reserve now. Tory Krug still hasn't come back, and Sven Bertsky is.
Yeah, I've got Rene on injured reserve, but I don't actually mind because
Rene's on injured reserve.
Yeah, potential concussion, but we don't know what it actually is yet.
I assume he'll be back for Thursday though, so don't worry too much about him.
Yeah, well, I don't mind having